Greetings. You're listening to Guiding Stars Evolutionary Astrology Radio. I'm Kristin Fontana. I'm here with Rose Marcus, and we're here today to talk about the transits for July 2025. Welcome, Rose. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Kristen?
I'm doing well. I've got my orange candle in the background here to just it's summer where we are. And it's hot, hot, hot in some parts of this country. Have you been hearing about that back east? Oh my
Oh,
goodness.
yeah. Heat domes
Sweltering.
all over the place. We are not getting it this year on the West Coast, but have experienced in the past couple of years. So, yeah, everyone out there, stay safe and make sure you hydrate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, we are kicking off summer. We just had the longest day of the year here on the 21st, late 20th and the 21st. So happy belated solstice to you and to all. And those of you down in the southern hemisphere, happy winter, right?
Right.
We can't forget them. I get emails just to let you know. Hey, wait. Um, so the biggest thing right now is that Mercury is about to change signs. I mean, as we're speaking, as we're gathering today, actually Mercury is at the last degree of Cancer, sextiling Uranus right in this moment while we're talking. So hopefully we'll be able to download some good info for you all. I'm
We're
actually looking forward to it moving into Leo. I don't know about you.
Me too, and it's just a couple of hours away from doing that. And Mercury's moving into Leo, and we will be talking as we go through today's presentation that there is a Mercury retrograde coming up. So, because of that, we have a very long Mercury in Leo.
Mm.
So, that's going to go throughout the rest of the summer. I think it's the beginning of September before it moves on. Um, so
Wow.
we do have a lengthy transit there, and I love Mercury in Leo because well, it fits the season that we're in of summer and enjoyment and so on. But Mercury in Leo is a confidence builder, right? Yeah,
Definitely. I
yeah,
feel like we've
and
had our fair share of energy of Cancer with the Mars retrograde back in there. I mean, it was in Leo as well, but a lot of emotion. We've got Jupiter in Cancer right now, and we need some balancing acts. And I do think that Mercury in Leo gives us that fire. We've got Mars now in Virgo, so we've got the Earth. So we can all get busy on something, but we can be creative in our busyness. If we're tackling projects, or whether you're writing, or you're organizing, or you're working on your house, or whatever it might be, I mean, you can really get a lot done with Mars and Virgo right now, right? Until like, is it August 7th or something like that?
mhm.
We're going to have some busy energy, but also productive. And if you're working on your inner home, you're meditating, it's a really good time too to start any intention that you have moving forward. So, what are you going to do with that transit, Rose?
Oh gosh, well, I think that of course we're into the month of Cancer, so that's the Sun in Cancer, and we have a whole year of Jupiter in Cancer, as you were saying. It's a very emotional journey. So to have that Mercury in Leo, and I just think the combination of Cancer and Leo is assisting to get more. On track for yourself. As I always say with the Leo archetype, to stand in your own creative center, so that
Mhm.
that I amness comes straight from center core, from the heart. Right?
Right,
Leo is
exactly.
all about the heart.
So we've got Cancer, we've got Leo, we've got Virgo, we've got a little bit of Earth, we've got water, we've got fire. Where's the air? We got Uranus coming into Gemini. So we've got all the elements covered this summer. And it just becomes about synthesizing them, figuring out how to work, braid the energy into your life, keep yourself balanced, because there's going to be a lot of energy pulling you in different directions, especially as we talk about the timing with Uranus entering into Gemini. We can just be all over the place up here. So we definitely want to have a good practice going on, a daily practice with Mars and Virgo, something you do for yourself to ground yourself every day, whether you're walking in nature, meditating, working in the garden. It's very important right now to access that Mars and Virgo energy on a daily basis, something habitual. What can you change in your life right now that would be just, well, game changing, habit changing, that can alter everything?
Well, I was talking to a friend yesterday, and I assisted with. I have a very, very dear friend who's written 15 books in affirmations.
Wow.
And yeah, she's 90, and I love her dearly. And she did a little presentation for her senior center yesterday. But,
Oh
this
my
is,
goodness.
about affirmations are really about getting into routine, because we have the mind is constantly going, right? And if you ever listen to the chatter in your mind, it's amazing how negative you can be, right? So to turn that thinking around. But when we have Mars in Virgo, whenever Mars switches into Virgo, there's this sense of I want to get to work. I want to get it cleaned up.
Yeah.
I want to get on track with that. And I think that motivation is very positive. And I had this little thing that I was doing with myself, and my friend reminded me of this yesterday. I called it the one a day thing. She called it the two a day thing. And it is like when you're facing that overwhelming, like, oh my God, there's just too much for me to deal with right here. If you just start small, that's Virgo. It's the one a day routine. I'm just going to clean out that one drawer. I'm just going to pick that up and move it, or I'm just going to do this one thing for myself. I'll do a 10-minute walk instead of an hour walk,
Right.
whatever it is that is going to help you to get into that rhythm that is going to get you someplace. It's the small steps that build to the big ones, or one step at a time. It's the Virgo
Yeah.
way,
Little
right?
bites. I
Little
love the
bites.
word, I love the word rhythm too. That's such a wonderful word because we do want to all be in step with ourselves. We do want to walk to our own music and find our own rhythm. And Virgo, Mars and Virgo is all about moving energy. When we feel trapped with our emotions and we're feeling, like just not uplifted, the fastest way to feel better, the fastest way to feeling better is moving. And that's
Yeah.
what Mars and Virgo teaches us, whether you're doing yoga or you're walking or yeah, I do like to clean drawers and I like that sense of satisfaction of the beginning, middle, and end of a project. And don't make it so big because then once you tackle one thing, you want to go to something else. So it does help to put you in motion, right? To just start, just do it like that Nike ad. Just start and initiate something and the wheels will start moving. Otherwise, we do get overwhelmed. But yeah, I love what you said, Rose, about there is a desire, there's a motivation to move with Mars and Virgo. We feel motivated.
Well,
Yeah.
absolutely. Mars represents personal will.
Yeah.
That's motivation right there, baby.
And yeah, it sure is. And working on our health, that's Virgo,
Yeah.
right? Having better health, taking care of our health. And that can be emotional health, it can be physical health, it can be spiritual health. And so, whatever equals being healthy for you, it's a time to initiate whatever that is.
Yeah, health and healthy. And healthy comes along with the Cancer archetype of self-care, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. All right, so we just are on the other side of a new moon in Cancer. We've got Mercury in Cancer moving into Leo, which is definitely going to spice things up and hopefully open your heart to new things and get you excited about your own creative stirrings. So please follow those impulses. And we've got a big transit here coming up just in a few days. You want to throw up that slide?
Yeah. That's
I mean, it's brief and it's big.
okay. Guiding stars for July. I have to put on my glasses here.
So on June 29th, I'll let
All
you
right.
talk about this.
Yeah. All right. So on the screen for what you see here is on the outer wheel are the transits for June 29. We're recording this a couple days early. Today's Thursday, the 26th of June, and Mercury is just a couple of hours away from moving into the sign of Leo. Here's Mercury right here. The reason I put this up on the screen, I wanted to mention this, is because at the end of April, we had Mars Pluto opposition, the final of three oppositions, which you and I have talked about in recent shows. That alignment of Mars and Pluto in opposition, personal will and soul will in opposition, has been going on since the middle of October, and it encompassed both the U.S. election and the Canadian election that we had, which was just after this final Mars-Pluto opposition. But here we have on the 29th of June, just finishing off the month here, we have Mercury in exactly the same position here. Look at it, 3 degrees Leo, the exact same degree that Mars was opposing Pluto back at the end of April. And that's an interesting point there, because Mercury is the ruler, one of the rulers of the nodal axis, right? And I've mentioned this before, that Mercury, sometimes doesn't get much attention because it's a fast mover. And of course, we pay attention to Mercury retrograde, but we don't kind of give it the same kind of attention that we would give some of the outer planets, Uranus, Saturn, what have you. But when Mercury is the ruler of one of the nodes, then its activity is punched up. So we want to look at that. And of course, Mercury is all about perception, right? It's all about how we communicate, how we connect the dots, how we're perceiving and then creating the reality. It's how we're downloading all of that stuff. And so this is an interesting point here with this particular transit. And I also have on the screen here that, and we'll talk about this as we come up to the new moon at the end of July. The sun will occupy that position as well too. And there's been something in the works. You probably feel it in your own personal life that you're working through something that's bigger than ordinary, right? And certainly this is happening on the world stage with just the events of the last month. But you may have that sense of the momentousness of whatever your particular individual life journey is. I certainly feel that myself. We've been working through a few of the larger transits, most notably the Jupiter-Saturn square that happened on the 15th of June, accompanied by Mars and Uranus in square as well too. And all the world happenings that were taking place around that, the USA bombing of the nuclear facilities in Iran, for one, right? It's all that kind of dynamic here taking place under this thing. But that Jupiter-Saturn transit is just recent, middle of last month, just a couple of weeks ago here. To me, that's a really dividing line in terms of our whole creative process, which is just what you're talking about, the Leo archetype, Mars and Leo, right? Mercury and Leo, our whole creative process here is this dividing line between the way it has been and how we are going to implement moving forward, or how we're going to actualize, or how we're going to perceive and create moving forward from here. So I think that this really speaks to that. Now, just over the next few days, Mercury moves into Leo. And the first thing it's going to do is it's going to be trining Saturn. As you can see, Saturn is sitting here at 1 degree of Aries, and Neptune is sitting at 2 degrees of Aries. So we have a Mercury-Saturn trine, followed by a Mercury-Neptune trine, and then we have the Mercury-Pluto opposition. And that's taking place over the next few days, with the 29th being this chart that you see with Mercury and Pluto in opposition. So it's interesting. Mercury and Saturn together in trine, that's a lovely aspect for solidifying, for being able to you kind of make it official in some way. It is whatever crystallizes in terms of the way you were thinking, or the way you were visualizing, or the way you were implementing whatever it is that you are implementing. And Neptune is always a planet of potential, right? So again, Neptune in Aries, these Aries transits here, Aries is instinct, impulses, and Aries is how the soul is, um, you know, um, uh, um, kind of programming its instincts into consciousness, right? So this is where you're having this instinct and an impulse to do something in a new way, to take
Mhm.
action in a new way, to legitimize or authenticate what you need, or what you intend in some kind of new way. Right? Kristen, what do
Yeah.
you have?
What I love about this pairing is that we've got Mercury as the ruler of the transiting South Node in Virgo. So there can be something that comes up that's even a mini crisis, or something that it can even be doubt inside of you about whether you can do something or pull something off. That Virgo energy creates doubt in our consciousness, emotional. Who, me? Really? I don't know. What am I thinking? I think I'm going to pull that off. But maybe that rises, or maybe even somebody challenges you with something you want to do. And then immediately after that, we've got Mercury trining Saturn, and then Neptune, which rules the transiting North Node in Pisces. So I
Right.
see with the Jupiter Saturn square that we're moving beyond a block. There's something that's been in the way, and Jupiter is opening the pathway up for you, and Neptune showing you the potential. And really, ultimately, when we want something, um, deeply, and we're following it with effort, which comes with the Virgo energy, then anything's possible. I heard this amazing quote from a client a few days ago, and she said it was her father who told her this quote. And she's around my age, so her father is not alive anymore. But he said something about the impossible just takes a little more time.
Love that.
That's a perfect quote for this aspect. So thank you, Lela, if you're listening. Um, so anyway, this is also about, you don't have to shoulder this all on your own. You can recruit those invisible guides and forces. That's the Neptunian presence. Like, I'm here. What do you want to do? And there it is, a bottomless well of unrealized potential, right, with Neptune. So we see this thing, this fire, this desire, this passion, this opening, and then we see Mercury opposing Pluto. So this is like, Mercury is the idea that you have, and your heart's in it with Leo, and it's opposing Pluto, your soul. So now what? When we see an opposition in evolutionary astrology, it is an opportunity to throw something off, to make the opposition become a new phase conjunction, to become a new beginning. So what has been stopping you in the past? What limiting belief has been getting in the way of your creative life purpose? And, Mercury is going to show you what that is. And it literally can just be a thought and a doubt. It can also be something about timing, or something's not ready, but you will know what it is, and you'll have an opportunity to throw it off and be on your way.
And I really think that Mercury, first thing, trining the Saturn, is like this confirmation, right? It's like,
Absolutely.
oh, got a confirmation, and then the Neptune ruling the North Node, and that is a suggestion, the North Node, of implementing in some new way, this new potential. And when Mercury opposes that Pluto there, it's about showing up for yourself, right? It's about putting on a show. Now you have the gifts of that Mercury trine Saturn, that Mercury trine Neptune, and now it is putting it to the task, right? When you have that, there's something formidable for you to face. It's a confrontation, and opposition is a confrontation. And so that Mercury in Leo it's very strong, and it's picking up the Mars, from the
Yeah.
end of April, that's saying can do.
Mhm.
The south node in Virgo, the nodal axis is 18-month point of the nodal axis moving through Virgo and Pisces. What the south node is doing for 18 months is uncovering, in order to eliminate whatever is in the way. Get the rocks out of the road so that we can travel, more straightforward. And I've said this in previous talks as well too. I think of this Saturn in Aries as an efficiency expert. Saturn with Neptune. Aries is very direct. It's not nebulous. It's not 1,000 different directions. It's the one. And this is exactly what this whole thing is about. Neptune and Saturn together here is exposing the exact thing that is needing to be targeted at the moment. It's going to make you face that sole priority,
Hmm.
whatever it might be.
Yeah, I got to bring this up because we had Neptune enter Aries the end of March. We had Saturn enter Aries the end of May, May 25th, around that time, and they're traveling together. They're just hovering together. And remember that Saturn is behind Neptune until the third week of February 2026. So there's something about a process that you're undergoing right now. You're testing things out this summer. That's Saturn. You're testing out your dreams. Will they hold water? What's this vision? Is this vision possible? Or is it just a fantasy? But we're testing things out. And then they both back into Pisces in the fall. Saturn starts September 1st with a backing into Pisces then. But the whole time, Saturn is behind Neptune. So it's like being behind a curtain and you're waiting for the show to begin. You don't know what's on the stage yet. You're trying to create that stage, but you've not revealed it to the world yet yourself. Maybe you're the director, you are the director of your own play, of your own deal. And so it's important to manage your expectations for timing in terms of how long something may take to play out. And I would say between now and March, the next 8 to 9 months is your window. And so enjoy the process, enjoy it. Use your imagination, make it bigger than it's been. Bring it to life with more detail. With the Mars and Virgo, you can color it more things, more detail, more nuance. And so this is an important transit to be talking about, Rose. We're hanging on this transit right now because we're going to be living it for many months. This is not just about right now with Mercury trining this. It is feeding that energy beautifully. And then we have a retrograde of Mercury and Leo, which I don't even know those two dates backwards and forwards. So I hope you have them.
Yeah, I have them. They're coming up. But I just wanted
Okay.
to say I love that idea of standing behind the curtain. And, I just visualize that you're standing behind the curtain and you're watching what's going on, right? You're
Right.
watching what's on stage, waiting for your moment, right? And that is, in my visualization, what I see is kind of a hyper awareness, right? Because you're just taking it all in this really intensified level. And it is really while you're moving through the paces of the rest of this year and into that final when Saturn and Neptune finally go new phase on February 20th of 2026, by the way. Is to observe and to become more aware. And I'm so amazed at divine timing. Divine timing is always in operation. When you think like I'm being held back, I can't, I should have been there by now, blah, blah, blah. There's always this sense of timing. It's about synchronizing with all of that at the exact moment when anything happens. That's the opportunity moment,
Yeah.
right?
I feel like when we are working on something that is private or personal to us and means the world to you or to me, that the Pisces energy, it's a time to really float in these energies that are it's just like between you and the world and the universe and your guides and your God. It becomes in the fall or this coming September, October, November, December, January, and until February 20th, 2026. It may be a period of time where you're standing between two worlds, where you're trying to finish up a chapter of your life over here. I've been talking to clients that are actually ending marriages, dissolving marriages, and there's all this that's involved with property and children. And there's a lot of back and forth that has to happen, negotiations, and you're still in that world, but you want to be on your way into the next chapter. And the waiting can be hard, but the process is important. We can't skip steps during this window. So if we're belaboring the point, there's a reason for it. Those waters that we return to are not just unfinished business, it's emotional content that the soul is working through before we can really run with the Aries energy next year. Time is an illusion, everybody. We're not going to run out of time. As Jeffrey Wolf Green used to always say about the Saturn element in our lives, we can feel like we're running out of time, but it's an illusion, really. And so we want to work with the energies and maximize the meaning in our life so we can make it work as well as it can. So we can stick the landing when it happens, right? My
Yeah.
gymnastics term.
You know,
So
and
yeah,
Saturn behind Neptune, that's the balsamic cycle here, and that's two things: completion and seeding for the future, right? And
yes,
I always describe the that point there. It's like the waiting to launch into the next cycle. It can be very frustrating, but it's like that one thing that needs to drop in before you can go. And I describe it quite often like the movie where they freeze the character and everything else is revolving around it, and it's
yeah,
until that all completes, whatever that is, going to drop into place. And then it's really a spring forward, right? That's a fast track. Aries is a fast archetype. If you feel
yes,
held up right now, by the time that kicks into new phase, the go pattern can move you a lot faster along the timeline.
yeah,
And along with that, I guess we should go to our next slide. We have this incredible angle between Uranus, which is finishing up in Taurus, in trine to Pluto, right? And Pluto's in the sign of Aquarius, and Uranus is just about to move into Gemini. And Aquarius is an acceleration archetype, and Uranus moving into Gemini is mobilizing, right? And here are the dates, right? So we're just around the corner from that. Kristin, did you have anything else to say before we move on to this?
yeah. I do because we've both got strong Aries energy in our chart. I've got an Aries moon. You have the Aries sun, and they're actually conjunct each other, which is why we love
We love each
hanging
other
out.
so much.
Yes. Um, we get one another. And so, but with the Aries, because we're always on the front foot, leaning into the next thing, sometimes it's hard for us to look back or for the Aries energy to look back at how far they've traveled. And it's a really important thing to reflect upon ground that's been covered. So you're not racing too fast and too far ahead. The shadow for Aries energy is having blind spots like you have in a car when you're driving really fast on the freeway. There's always going to be a spot you can't see, especially if when you're going real fast in this way. And so the slowdown allows you to see everything. And circumferentially, is that a word? Really, like you said, this example that you gave at the Neptune component allows you to see up, down, left, right, and even obliquely everywhere, like having eyes in the back of your head. It gives you those eyes in the back of your head. And we need to have our eyes, our sights on all things to know how our desires are going to influence our life, our path, and those that we love. So it will come to benefit you, those who are frustrated with the slowdown. Saturn in Aries does not like to have, with the foggy influence of Neptune, does not like to be able to not, or to not see the path ahead, excuse me, does not want to see the fog on the
Yeah.
path ahead. That's what we're seeing.
Saturn in Aries is sometimes hurry up and wait.
Right, but the future feels uncertain with the way of the world right now. It's an Aries world right now. It feels volatile, it feels unpredictable, and yeah, we're all living in this together. And so that's the influence of Neptune on that Aries. What's going to come next? This uncertain future feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, uncertainty really needs to be factored in, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Uranus in Gemini, July 7 to November 7, right, of this year. And then April 25th of next year until 3032, 3033. So Uranus is a 7-year transit through a sign. You see the previous transits encompassed World War II, and the 1858 to 1866 time frame here. Uranus makes one complete revolution around the zodiac at the age of 84. So if you're in your early 80s, then you are coming up to your Uranus return. And this is a transit that I'm excited about for some reasons. Uranus in Gemini is certainly going to be mobilizing. I think that that's a key word for that. And I have so many clients, Kristin, you probably have as well too, that uncertainty that you were just mentioning. Can't see forward, can't figure it out, don't know what to do, all of that. Can't figure it out. Uranus in Gemini, when we're standing in Uranus in Gemini, it is going to be fresh downloads. It's going to be fresh insights. It's going to be fresh impetus. It's going to be that, oh, that just clicked in for me. Oh, it's all of that kind of dynamic here where right now you can't fathom maybe a way to implement, where Uranus and Gemini can be very creative in that it's synchronicity, it's spontaneous piece of it, of just like, I just figured it out, boom, or the telephone rings or so on, right? So I love it for that. And Uranus is going to be in this trine to planet Pluto that I just mentioned before. For while Pluto is at the start of its tour of Aquarius and Uranus is at the start of Gemini, these two hold in a trine pattern, all the way up to about 2029. They're
Yeah.
back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And this is, reinvention. It's the whole world needs to be reinvented, right? We need to reinvent ourselves socially, politically, everything.
Yeah.
It's all about lifestyle. We have to make it, we have to change how we're living it on a day-to-day basis. And with these two in trying, there is a suggestion of well-timed invention or reinvention here. It's something that I'm ready to do. All this time, I didn't think that I could manage that, or I couldn't fathom that, or I couldn't see me making this really radical change. Wow, that feels like the natural way forward now, right? That's the difference between these two. And by the way, Saturn and Neptune is a 36-year cycle. And 36 years, it ends an era of your life. And now we have this Uranus trining Pluto, Uranus in Gemini, Pluto in Aquarius, which suggests here that we can move a lot faster in terms of that personal reinvention, that whole social, political, collective reinvention. And wow,
Mm.
I'm looking forward to this from that end of things.
Oh, yeah. I mean, things will be accelerated faster than they have in the past under the same circumstances, for sure. And it's a blessing, everybody. Think about your chart right now. If anybody has early Libra planets, for sure you're going to receive a grand trine from Pluto and Uranus. I was speaking to a couple gals yesterday who have both Pluto and the early degrees of Libra, that generation. And they're really wanting to take a leap with their work and getting really progressive with things and metaphysical with things. And what a perfect opportunity. So it does feel like an evolutionary gate for our planet, for us personally. If you don't have, I don't have planets in early Libra, but wherever Pluto and Aquarius and Uranus and Gemini are in your chart, they're forming a trine. So they're together supporting you in some way. You want to find out what houses those are in, what other aspects they're making. Of course, we've got the Aries energy that's supported under this transit tremendously because Aries sextiles Aquarius on one side and Gemini on the other. I like to see it like the tip of a kite with Aries at the point. If you've got early Aries planets, and these two planets, Pluto and Uranus, as the wings, giving you wings, giving your desires wings. You like that, Rose?
I like that. Yeah, I like that. Give it wings.
But
You
yeah, like
know,
even Sagittarius will benefit. I know it opposes that Gemini energy, but the Aquarius will lift it up too. I mean, almost all of the archetypes are everyone's gonna feel this, but more directly, many of them will get a direct wind with
yeah,
this.
and especially if you have Uranus in Sag. I'm sorry, I don't have the years in my head right now, but this Uranus in Gemini will be really catapulting for you. You said it earlier. I liked when you said braiding, because we have Pluto in Aquarius and we have the Uranus in Gemini, and right in the middle is that Saturn Neptune. And so the Saturn Neptune are like that point there, but all three of them are they're harmonizing. All those planets are
Yeah.
harmonizing to allow us to come up with something new, to entertain fresh possibilities for the experiential track to really be vibrant and to come alive in a brand new way. So. Yeah, I have to say that there's many things to talk about Uranus and Gemini. And of course, and Uranus is backing into Taurus for the rest of the year as well too. Later on, Saturn will back into Pisces at the end of September, and Neptune will back into Pisces in October, and we've got Uranus and Gemini till November 7, and then it's back into Taurus. But moving from Taurus to Gemini is Taurus is the archetype of what has value and meaning, right? So it's a whole new understanding on what has value and meaning to you. Again, it's all about. I think we are so much on survival, which is a Taurus archetype as well too. And Uranus in Gemini is giving some brand new thought on what it means to survive. And
Mm.
survive is, not only physically, but emotionally, intellectually, spiritually. It's the whole nine yards, right?
I just thought of something. It was, really wanting everyone to benefit from these transits, of course. I want us all to level up, come on, consciousness to
Level up.
one of these. But I was just thinking too, if you have any planets in Aquarius and Uranus rules Aquarius, I was just thinking about one of these charts. One of the girls had Uranus, or excuse me, Aquarius rising. So Uranus rules the whole chart and it's trining Pluto. So that's another archetype we didn't even mention. We've got Scorpio, all the Scorpios out there and the Scorpio energy. Pluto rules Scorpio, and that's trining Uranus. You can see how all the elements are activated. And I just want to ask you, Rose, you probably don't know because it goes so far back, but Pluto hasn't been here in 248 years.
Right.
Uranus hasn't been here in 84 years. So 248 years ago, Pluto was not trining Uranus. It's been, I don't even know how many years, hundreds and hundreds of years before. Who knows the math? It's probably just I don't even know. I don't even want to think about how far back that goes. But the fact that we now weave in Saturn in Aries and Neptune in Aries, and Neptune will be hovering in Aries for quite a bit. It's going to stay at the top of that kite. And I think
Mhm.
about Aries being new beginnings, Neptune being like the dream, but also what we access for support, the spiritual realm. I mean, that's going to be critical so we don't freak out while we're here. I mean, there's a lot going on in this planet that is uncomfortable as humans, we're having to just live in the heat of all of this. But Neptune can be a saving grace. I mean, you can really transport yourself to other realms through, meditation, spiritual work that'll help you be a guiding light for others. I mean, we all need to take responsibility, Saturn and Aries, for why we are here on the planet right now. We all have a role to play to improve things, to I don't know, move back to tribe consciousness in some way. So just be thinking about what you can do, whether it's, I mean, even in a neighborhood reality, a community reality, there's a lot that's going to be happening very quickly. We want to be um, ready for that.
Yeah. And Uranus is like-mindedness and group and community, and Gemini is again how we are similar, and again is a social thing. But Uranus in Gemini is also an archetype of the social divides, right? You know, and it's how we get segregated and separated, right? You know, so we have our togetherness and we have our separateness, and that will be an interesting dynamic to watch as this transit moves forward. I just wanted to mention that a Neptune transit's 165 years, right? You know, so we're working under 2025 with all the other planets changing signs. This is an exceptional timetable to be incarnate and existing on the planet and contributing to the welfare of the whole. You know, I was watching the news the other day, and Jeffrey forgot his last name. Hinton, is it the godfather of AI?
Mm,
He was saying AI, which is an Aquarius thing. He was saying that they did a IQ on the AI and just a little while ago, and found out that the AI IQ was 90. And then they revisited that quite recently, and the IQ is like 140 now. So it's like, you know, how rapid acceleration is taking place on the planet in
yeah.
terms of intelligence, you know,
Mhm.
that's the artificial intelligence. I have to say that our organic intelligence as well too, you know, those of us who understand, you know, how energy works and frequency and vibration, that's Uranus, right? You know, that's Aquarius, right? So yeah, so much. Here is transits for July. This list, I produce this list for my website every month and put it up here. You can stop the presentation that we have and check out the dates that you see on the screen. On July 4, on the USA's birthday, Neptune will station retrograde. And on the 12th of July, Saturn will station retrograde. So we've just had them over into Aries since the end of March and end of April there, and they've just gone, you know, just a couple, you know, just whatever it is, 2 degrees. And Neptune, Saturn's 1 degrees, and then they're backing off, so they're in retrograde. And as I said, in the fall, the planets will move back into Pisces. So when a planet turns retrograde, what I always say about it is that it gets more specific, right? You know, so this is that focus in both of these planets already in Aries, which is already targeted, but to do the retrograde is to eliminate more of the variables and put us more onto target.
Hmm.
Kristin, you have something you want to add
Oh, I
about?
love that. I mean, that is one of my most favorite things I've ever heard you say on the retrograde. I mean, you say a lot of great things, Rose, but I know because I think when we hear the word retrograde, we panic a little bit. Oh no, what's going to happen? But when we can be more specific, when we can really be more targeted and tailored with our approach and really just kind of hone in on something, especially those outer planets. And when Pluto's retrograde, what is it that my soul has come here to do? To be more specific, to not get distracted and off course ultimately at all. So I love that you reminded us of that to become more specific. And what do I need to eliminate in my life to do that? Right? What are the
Right.
things that aren't adding on to my future or getting in the way of what I want to be doing or slowing me down? So, yes, there's Neptune retrograde, which is the ruler of the transiting north node. So, your future will become more specific. Our future is going to be more focused and specific because of that retrograde.
And you know, any retrograde is that planet's relationship to the sun, which is a whole creative process as we are visualizing it from Earth, right? You know, so look at this month ahead. We've got the ruler of the North Node, Neptune, stationing retrograde on July 4th, and Saturn's coming along on the 12th. On the 17th, we've got Mercury, ruler of the South Node, which is just moved into Leo, stationing retrograde as well too. And as you can see on the screen here, there are a couple more retrogrades coming up, and one of them is Chiron in Aries, because we've got that representation. Chiron its longest transit is through the sign of Aries. So we've got that Chiron in Aries for a long time, but at the end of the month, that also turns retrograde. So when outer planets like a Neptune stations retrograde, it's a very subtle influence. Mercury retrograde, that's when, the schedule gets tossed out the window and so on. But despite the fact that they are subtle, it's a shift in the process and a shift in the awareness in that whole creative process.
Absolutely.
All
Okay.
right. So here's Uranus moving into Gemini, as you can see, July 7. This is the date on July 7. And I think we've talked about this a bit. I wanted to mention, I like to put Sedna in my charts. And here's Sedna here, this thing that looks like Saturn, but kind of an incomplete Saturn, sitting at 1 degrees. And Sedna is way out there in the frozen region of our galaxy, and it's a 65 years through a sign, and it's like 11,000 plus years, through one rotation around the zodiac. But I wanted to look forward to see that Uranus is in balsamic phase to that Sedna, and it is the end of April. I've forgotten now. I think it might be the 26th of April when they come new phase. And the thing about Sedna, there are many things I can say about this planetary energy, but the one thing that I always like to bring up is the fact that Sedna is about unthawing that which has been held in frozen state. And I think that that is really a dynamic influence because, what we have in cellular memory, is we have all of those memories that are back there someplace, right? And certainly with Uranus trining Pluto and Pluto being in Aquarius, it is an awakening, and it's an awakening of that cellular memory. And I've talked about that in other presentations that you and I have done as well too, in terms of opening up your extraordinary memories. So this is the potential to tap into resources, skill sets and talents that you have, those extraordinary resources that you have within. Of course, can unlock trauma that is unhealed and needs to be brought to the surface so that it can be reworked, which is what the nature of that South Node in Virgo is doing as well too. But I like the fact that, again, with Saturn, Neptune being the end of February of next year before it'll come new phase, and we're still in that, waiting to launch period. Uranus is also doing that with Sedna, unlocking, unblocking that which has been held in the frozen state. What's been held in the frozen state is the Sedna's treasure chest, right? All of the jewels that she took with her into exile, and at this point we can take them back up and bring them back to the surface. And Gemini, again, it represents lifestyles, it represents connecting with key people of your life. This is karmic tracks with key people that populate our lives, whether they come in as lovers or mentors or guides or parents or children or what have you. I'm looking at that as being a very interesting. We've got so much going on in
So, Rose, what's the
2026.
key people? You say key people that are coming in.
Mercury, Gemini.
Oh, the Uranus and Gemini. So
Yeah,
look at
Gemini.
this. Look at the little top of the kite here. You've got this beautifully drawn. The sextiles coming together with the trine. So you've got Saturn, Neptune at the top of the kite with the sextiles to Pluto on one side and Uranus on the other. Uranus is like a wind. It's helping your kite lift and fly.
Wind.
And, really, there's a new wind about to blow that's going to elevate you in some way and excite you and bring those memories to life. Uranus connects to our long-term memories that are held in the cells of our being in our body. Yes, we can remember things that don't feel good, but we can also objectify why they had to happen so we can finally let them go, let the wind blow them in another direction so they don't weigh us down anymore. There's freedom with the Saturn and Neptune and Aries at the top of your kite, full on freedom. And those hot air balloons, they need fire to fly, don't they? We need fire to fly. And so I really love the top of this kite in this way. And I know I love these aspects so much because the sextiles also can make things more natural for us to move in that direction. It's an angle of ease. It doesn't require much effort. Literally, you just have to stop or excuse me, direct yourself in the right way or in a natural way or take one step towards something sometimes. Initiate a conversation. And you said key people will show up with this, and I just had written this down that I had found this little quote recently that I love, and it says, "The people who are meant to find us will. The hands that are meant to hold us won't let go. The eyes that are meant to see us will never look away, and the hearts meant to love us always will." Uranus and
Fabulous.
Gemini. Yeah, the key people. I have chills. I mean, it could be a teacher, it could be a partner, it could be a friend that helps us see things differently, or just, a lot of times souls that are and on the path of evolution start to lose friends because they can't relate to them anymore, right? And so the prayer and the hope is for new friends who can match our essence or like-minded, and nature we can attract them into our orbit so we can feel supported on our journey in that way. So I run into that a lot with clients that are really ready to evolve. So I love that quote, and just remember that. Um, oh, okay. So the last line of that quote, though, I said, "The heart's meant to love us always will. In the end, we will always find the people meant for us. In the end, we always will." So remember that when you
That
feel,
is so true. I love that. I love that
yeah,
poem. Yeah. That's that fresh breeze coming in, that fresh
yes,
air. And by the way, that Gemini piece, breathe, breathe. Don't
Uranus and
forget to breathe,
Gemini.
right? Yeah.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
this is really interesting on this Uranus and Gemini. Look at the position of Venus, which has just moved into Gemini, nicely trining that Pluto and so on. The reason the Venus is important is because Uranus has just come out of Taurus, right, which is a Venus-ruled sign, and it will go back there as well too. So this is lovely, a lovely way for Uranus to make its entrance, I think.
Beautiful.
Right? Yeah.
Beautiful with
Yeah.
Venus. Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Lovely. I don't know what we've got on the next screen. Oh, Mercury retrograde. Okay. And that, by the way, Venus enters Gemini on July 4, the same day that Neptune turns retrograde. And it will be in Gemini for the entire month of July. On the 1st of August, it will move into Cancer. So we've got a whole month of the ability to get out there and make those connections and to socialize and to speak.
Okay, so you were talking earlier, and I don't know if you have these written down in your notes, Rose, hopefully, but so Mercury will be in the sign of Leo all the way until I think you said September. So we've got Mercury retrograding back. When will Mercury retrograde back to one or two Leo to form that trine with Saturn and Neptune? Maybe you can find.
Well, you know what? I will tell you. Yeah. So Mercury will stay in Leo until the 2nd of September, which is interesting. And it goes direct at 4 degrees of Leo. So it won't be,
Close
um,
enough, though.
yeah, close enough. Yes, close enough. 15 back to 4.
Okay, so four, will be within a few degrees. It's like a waning, well, it's a retrograde, but yeah, it's like a waning trine, or a backward trine, but it's within a few degrees. So I see that if you're in a creative process, that maybe there's something that it's kind of like being a painter and you discover a new color for your canvas, right? That you want to create something with. So you will be returning to something, returning to work on something that brings it even more back to life, or it could be even a relationship that you return to where there's things that you still wanted to say that you haven't, or maybe you met somebody early on in the summer and then you reconnect with them at that time. So when is the stationary direct?
On what have I got here? August 11. But this is interesting because we started the talk with the 29th of June talking about Mercury opposing the Pluto. and being in trine to Saturn and Neptune. So Mercury at that point from the 29th forward to retrograde is in a process. This is like the pre-shadow of the retrograde of information gathering, right? You know, this is a whole experiential track from now until the retrograde happens on July 17. And for those of you who are watching this presentation, then pay attention, you know, stay alert to the downloads that you're having, the conversations that you're having, the things that you're reading, the things that you are seeing as you're going about your day, and just register that. You know, stay alert. Because that's all information that's coming in terms of that whole creative process. And then when Mercury is retrograde, it's about processing all of that information that has been gathered in this first half of July. And then, of course, the post shadow is on the completion end of, the retrograde is sorting it out. It's it's a regroup in terms of taking a look at what information. And Mercury in Leo, is always going to say, what's best for me, or does this make me light up, or does it diminish me, right? Is this what's best for me? Leo is always about how am I going to create from here, and is this going to serve me? Is it going to make me happy? Is it going to make me feel like I'm thriving?
I love that you said earlier that the Leo, Mercury and Leo is about showing up for yourself. Those
Yeah.
words are beautiful. Speaking up for yourself, advocating for yourself, asking for the raise, really whatever it is, or if you're not getting your needs met in that relationship, whatever, communicate what it is that you need. Show up for yourself. I love that so much. And so this is a combination between Mars in Virgo, Mercury in Leo, and now Saturn in Cancer, Venus in Gemini. We are covering all those elements. I mean, what a beautiful blend it can be. Not to mention this epic small triangle at the top of the kite. I mean, I keep fixating on that. But when we look at, I mean, that's four outer planets involved. I mean, think about this. Four outer planets are all moving so slowly. This is not a quick fix. This is going deep and diving, and it's transformational. It's metamorphic, and it's very motivating with Aries. There's a lot of fire behind this, and so desire is a powerful force. And with Mars being the ruler for Aries, how you direct your will, how you direct your desires, being very clear about where you're headed and what you want, and unapologetically so. Because we see here with Mars and Virgo at the 18-degree conjunct the transiting south node on the
Right.
day that Mercury stations retrograde, it is about being unapologetically you and not doubting yourself or questioning anything. That doubt will come in at the station. That doubt will come in with Mars and Virgo. The things that are broken in your life will reveal themselves. And so it's an opportunity to make adjustments under a Mercury retrograde. Mercury rules Virgo. So, and
I'm
whether
glad you brought up that Mars South Node conjunction there, because that is a completion pattern here of having gathered all that information now, and looking to make good use out of that to make
yeah,
the necessary change, right?
right.
And yeah, and on the 21st, because I had to look this up here, on the 21st, Mars and the South Node go new phase. If we're looking at a true node, of course, when they wobble, there's a margin there, but suffice to say that Mars is completing with that south node. So it's looking to finish off and looking to eliminate what no longer serves. And the Venus position there is in a square relationship to that Mars. And on the 23rd, just before the new moon, Venus and Mars move to last quarter. And so a Venus Mars transit is 2 years of relationship dynamics, as I always say, me to you, and me to us. And so this is at that third quarter level of having gotten to this point now. There's a lot of inner work to be done now in order to make that internal adjustment so that we can start to create something that is more in keeping with what we really want instead of making do at some way that is unacceptable to self.
Wow, Venus is squaring the nodal axis and Mars. So, in evolutionary astrology, when a planet is squaring the nodes, we call it a skip step. It brings a lot of focus. And with transits, people can be born with skip steps, but if you don't have a skip step during a transit, you can feel like you're living one. Venus is our relationships, as you mentioned, in every relationship that we have, but also the one we have with ourself. And so I see Venus too in this way as a tuning fork, right? With Mercury stationary retrograde, it's like, okay, what's out of tune in my life? Where do I need to clean something up, clear it out, whatever it might be? Where do things feel out of balance? And what can I do to change that? That's what that timing's about.
I always think that when you see a planet square the nodes by transit, you're faced with a dilemma, and you're at a crossroads and you're working your way through that crossroads.
Mm-hmm. It's an argumentative energy, I see.
An
So,
internal argumentative or an external, either or, right?
mhm.
Yeah. And here is the new moon on July 24, which we talked about a bit. But as I said earlier, that a retrograde planet is that planet's relationship to the sun, right? And here we have Pluto retrograde in opposition to the sun, right, which is a new moon. And the last Mars and Pluto opposition, that was a triple pass. The last opposition, Mars was direct, Pluto was direct, right? And now we have Pluto retrograde and that sun there re-triggering that Mars Pluto was 3 degrees. Well, somewhere in there, 1 to 3, I think the triple pass was. But this is picking this up again, and
Yeah.
it's a new moon. It's
Yeah.
a new
Love it.
moon,
Love it. Love it. Love
right?
it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Love it.
and the angle of Mercury at 13 degrees is in a lovely trine to Ceres, which is traveling through Aries for most of 2025. And there's a lot to say about Ceres as well too. But I always see her when she is being emphasized by transit as being a cycle. It's like a stop or a start, something new coming in. So this is that Mercury retrograde is optimal with that series for again getting back in touch with yourself and kind of infusing you with more will, more desire, more instinct, a stronger instinct that says this way, not that way.
Hmm. What would you say, one last little tidbit here, because we were just talking about Venus squaring the nodes and Mars, still in a tight square here. I love this new moon, by the way. We've got the sun, the moon in Leo, trining Saturn and Neptune. Beautiful. I realize they are opposing Pluto. It is intense, but it is so powerful. It can be very liberating. But the square is still in place. So how do you see that?
Well, and Venus is in Gemini, which is Mercury ruled, and Mars is in Virgo, which is Mercury ruled, and we've got that Mercury retrograde that I just mentioned. But it is interesting that we've got Mars new phase to the south node. So this is already, in terms of instinct and will to try to figure it out in some kind of new way. And Venus at 22 degrees has surpassed the square to the nodes at 19. So it is
Mm,
also in a new orientation in terms of the way it is processing the information. A
excellent.
last quarter aspect between any two planets, we have the externalized reality, and then we have the new impetus or the new instincts that are forming, the new subjectivity that's saying, I got to figure this out in some different way.
Yeah.
Right. So this is, I think, registering some new ideas, Mercury and Leo, about what is best for me, right?
Perfect.
How I'm going to create moving forward here. What would be, the thing that would make me feel that I am being successful in getting my own personal needs met,
Yes.
right?
So we're all asking you, or you and I are asking everybody, What does it look like to show up for yourself this month?
And this is exactly about that, getting clearer on that
Mhm.
exact question.
Fabulous. I love it.
Isn't
Well,
this something?
we're definitely on a bullet train here coming up here soon with Uranus and Gemini, but it feels exciting. It feels life-changing. It's full of promise and possibility with Neptune and Saturn at the top of the your kite there in Aries. Um, you're holding a torch, you're holding the torch for your life. You're carrying the torch. You're able to illuminate something you haven't seen under these transits. You're still working backstage behind that curtain, but you are the director of this play, of your show. And so you don't have to reveal everything yet. You're still in a state of becoming in the midst of a process. You're still working towards something. You're still climbing that mountain. You haven't summited yet. It's okay. We have time. We have some months now before those curtains part. And so we're all looking forward to seeing how you show up for yourself, everybody.
And just we're needing to wrap up here, but I think that this slide is probably out of order because it's the full moon
Oh,
on July 10. But it's interesting that it's how this showed up here. It is a full moon at 18 degrees Capricorn, and the sun is 18 degrees Cancer. So you might see where that is in your chart. But on this full moon, Mercury is at the degree 13 degrees of the new moon back here on the 24th. Isn't that interesting?
mm.
So, and that was another point to make is that Mercury trine Ceres in July 12 exactly, July 20th and August 25th. That's a really positive transit for Ceres is about planting seeds and growing a beautiful plant, right? So, the creative process of Mercury in trying to Ceres in fire, both planets in fire, bode very well for getting you to some place where you do feel like you actually showed up for yourself, right?
Let me see that full moon real quick. Go back there. Okay. Yeah. So I was just wanting to see that. Oh, that Mercury aspect coming back in station. I just wanted to visualize
And
that.
by the way, while you're looking at that, 18 degrees Cancer Capricorn, these are the Pluto trans planetary nodes as well too, which can punch up the dynamic of a full moon in Capricorn. Again, that's about your boundaries, your control, how you legitimize for self, and so on, confronting a reality,
Yeah.
right?
All right. I was already closing the show and I forgot a slide, but we went back. We're already in the shadow of the retrograde, I suppose. So, but a lot to consider and a lot to move through, a lot of elements to bring into balance in your life. So I'm looking forward to the month ahead.
I am too.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll be back in a month. And Rose, thank you, and
Thank
namaste.
you. Namaste.